Alright, hey everybody and welcome to this short introduction video, I guess you could call it, to the Wargame Red Dragon 1991 mod. You may have seen the video that I did recently, and I also streamed it, I don't know, last year at some point. I don't know when it was, a bit, but haven't touched it since, until like last week or so. And I played quite a bit more, but I didn't record. There will definitely be more videos and probably also some streams in the near future, so if you're interested in that, watch out for that. But naturally, I think some of you will also be wanting to try this mod. So before I do some more videos, just a relatively short introduction to the mod. So first of all, of course, installation. A big thing with this is usually Wargame mods are quite a pain in the ass to install, I guess you could call it. But the mod comes with a mod manager. So once you install the mod, ignore the 16th of February. It's actually, if you look at this, just very recently updated. If you install the mod, it'll also install the mod manager. And what that does is it will. This is the mod manager. I'm not sure if it still has the same icon. And then you can always switch between vanilla and the 1991 mod and launch the respective version of Wargame. And that'll make it a lot easier to, keep switching between these versions without having to manually change the files all the time. So there we go. So you can see here, and the different, here you can see Benelux, for example, that's new. And also very important, whenever you open the armory, the very first unit is a ship, ignore the stats and shit, I think that's still vanilla, but it has a weird name, and that is the version name of your mod. So that's a very easy way to identify if you are running the current version, which at the moment of this video, this is. And the other good thing is that when you install the mod, and let me just now switch to vanilla again, then you will see that if you pay attention, the decks now are different. So when you install the mod and you select these options, I would heavily suggest you doing that, but it will ask you if you want to have it also create different profiles. It'll also manage profiles for you so that the mods doesn't screw up the decks that you have in your vanilla version, right? So, which usually happens when you install the mod. So that is very, very nice. That is one of the big issues that people all often had with mods in the past, that for one, switching from vanilla to mods was awkward, and the other thing is that it will always screw up your decks. So that is very, very, very nice. And yeah. Then of course, you can read this for yourself. There'll be a link in the description. But it's a lot of changes. First of all, balance is not the #1 priority here. This should be definitely set at the start. This mod basically aims to, have each nation's arsenal to the 1991 capabilities. Pretty simple. So you won't have infantry like Gewehrmen and Gewehrmen 85, for example. You will just have Gewehrmen, and those Gewehrmen will be up to the 1991 standards. That's just how it is. They will, of course, still try to have as much balance as possible, but realism, I guess, if you want to call it that, or authenticity, whatever it is, is the higher priority here. However, even though the mod is certainly not perfectly balanced, like virtually every unit in the game has been changed. I think there's very, very few, if any, unchanged units have been changed. So with a small mod team and not a very high player base, it's obviously very natural that things are not really perfectly balanced. However, so far, there are of course some units that are problematic, there are some decks that seem strongest, but for many people, including me, this is relatively new, and if it's new, you don't immediately find or know what's overpowered and what's not. Second of all, at first glance, it doesn't seem to be like ridiculously broken in any way, but again, that might also just be because it's new. Still, it is very, very playable, definitely, and even if you just want something new, even if you don't care about the realism, which I, for example, am part of, I don't really care honestly, if the TADUD is a TADUD or a TADU or something, or if it was actually used in 1991 or only in 1992 and it's still in the game, that's something that I personally don't really care about. Still, for me, simply because it was new and it wasn't like completely horribly unbalanced, and it still felt pretty close to vanilla Wargame, unlike Ash and Shadows. And that is not me saying Ash and Shadows is garbage or anything. It's just very, very different, and it aims to be very, very different. But Wargame 1991 gameplay wise still feels very close. Or basically, just it really feels like vanilla Wargame, just completely different stats, which may sound weird, but it is still. You're not gonna suddenly feel overwhelmed by units behaving completely different. So yeah, there's also a Discord that I would heavily suggest you join. I think both of these invites work for the 1991 mod. And in the Discord, let me just. There'll also be the files. The current file that, if you don't follow the link, would actually be this one, this link here. But there's various channels for looking for game. It is obviously, you probably won't be able to find games randomly while you watch it, so you will always have to set up games. But every now and then, it's relatively easy, especially if you're looking for a 1 versus 1 or something. Then you shouldn't have too many issues. Of course, many new unit cards, and yeah, the mod is obviously still very much in development. Let me just quickly open it up again. It's still very much in development, so there's still gonna be changes, and it's by no means done. But there's just a very high amount of stuff that has been added and changed and whatnot. There we go. So for example, and you'll let me just open it up on the second monitor so I can read it as well. Many radar units now have 2 weapons, as you see. The Scabbard, for example. If you paid attention, this one has the radar tag, this one does not. So units that in real life have the option to effectively, and I'm I may not be using the proper terms, but I think I'm gonna put the point across. Many units, like the Gepard and the Roland, for example, had the option to quote-unquote turn the radar off, or whatever it would be in the proper term, and use other systems or optical systems to still use their guns. And this is reflected in game. Units, I believe, will always prefer the radar option, but you can just turn off this radar gun, and it'll shoot with this gun, and thus be immune to seed, while still be able to shoot at helicopters and planes. They use the same ammo pool, by the way, so don't think that you have 680 rounds of radar ammo and 680 rounds of non-radar ammo. This is actually shared. So if this one runs out, this will also be empty. Roland as well. Some units do not have this option, like the Hawk, for example. But the other thing is, something like the Mars also has the option to either shoot with HE or with cluster. Also nice. And again, they share the ammunition. Another important thing is, or useful rather, I should say, every artillery unit, I think except mortars, yes, but heavy artillery and howitzers, after the name of their weapon, there's a seconds indicator, and this is the aim time, which is very nice and very useful. For example, the Mars has 10 seconds aim time, the Lars 2 has 20 seconds aim time, the M110 has 20 seconds as well. Stuff like that. Specializations, for example, have also been completely reworked and be adjusted to how they work in real life, I suppose, if you want to call it that way. If you take a look at motorized, for example, they still have access to a Leopard 2A4, for example, which in 1991 is the heaviest tank that Germany has access to. So there's gonna be quite some difference. And you also don't see a Leopard 2 anymore, because in 1991, I assume, Germany only had Leopard 2s up to the standards of 2A1 or 2A4. And they still had various Leopard 1 versions, I suppose, in reserve, but as you can see, they all use modern ammunition. The Leopard 1A2 has 17 AP at 35 points. So I think you can also see balance may not necessarily be ideal, although they also want to sorry for that again. I hate when that happens. What was I saying? Yeah, I think they mainly want to put the emphasis on medium tanks. They are not they're not fans of the super heavy and smoke meta, if you want to call it that way, of vanilla, although that hasn't really been all too meta in recent times. Maybe in team games, but definitely not 1v1s. But I think they want to put the emphasis on the usage of medium tanks and less single-use heavy tanks. But that's a different thing. Another thing is, and that's rather small, but still worth noting, you may see, holy shit, Leopard 2 F4 Recon. Recon tanks don't have stealth anymore. And that is a very big and very important thing. Some units also, some vehicles are transportable in helicopters. I actually have not tested yet if you can abuse it and then put a Leopard 2 inside of the CH-53, but I think you could not. Recon Jeeps have good stealth, so they're actually kind of worth taking and cost only 10 points. Stuff like AIM-120s. I think this is the only unit with AIM-120s in the game, because at 1991, West Germany and other nations didn't have access to them, and USA, I assume, only put them on the F-15C. So, for example, West Germany, their KWS has 2 AIM-9L sets. That's the best ASF you get for West Germany. No long range or medium range plane at all. Red 4 has no access to medium range fire and forget missiles. So the AIM-120 on the F-15C Enhanced Eagle is the only set of these fire and forget medium range missiles that you get. Yeah, there's a lot of changes, many that I will also forget to mention. Standardized small arms and machine guns on all infantry, so you won't have the MG3 and Mini-Me Master Race anymore. There are even some new maps, which are just maps with different zones. For example, this, I don't think this is all too good for 1v1, but this is just with the different zone values of the 3v3 map that it was. There's also, this, for example, has side spawns here now. There's a different version of Paddy Field. This is also, you know, for the most part, I don't think they're all too great, but I also haven't tested them yet. So here, Petty Field, for example, it goes from top to bottom. It's weird, but you know, there's only so many things they can do with the mod tools in terms of maps. So yeah. Napalm apparently has been buffed. It does a lot more damage against infantry, but virtually no damage against stuff that actually has armor. Yeah. Of course, you know, availability on infantry CVs, or CVs I should say, has been adjusted. IFVs also were completely different now. Instead of heavily affecting the price now, they are not a huge price nerf, I guess you could call it, or they don't cost that much more than basic transports, but they heavily affect availability now. So you see the Marder 1 and 3 being at 20 points and the Marder 1 and 2 at 15 points. So you know, that's pretty cheap, but you can see you get 10 Panzergrens in the Marder 1 and 3, but 20 in the 5-pointer. So they are not that much more expensive than basic transports, but much more heavily affect availability now. And as you can also see, for example, Panzergrens are now regulars because it's actually more realistic. And Fallschirmjäger are actually shock and not elite, which is also actually more realistic. Yeah. Then there's also the Milan squad and Jagdkommando as well. I really like the Jagdkommando. The Milan transport, for example, now uses the Milan 2, so there's no Milan 1 transport anymore because it wasn't used anymore. Stuff like that. So I think you get the point that I'm trying to get here. Lots of changes. Their support specialization is basically now a special, so the support doesn't really exist anymore. It hasn't really fully reworked, been fully reworked yet. A lot of the Red 4 nations also haven't been, their specializations still haven't been reworked either. The M84A, for example, only available in armored, which I assume won't really be the case in the long run. So as you can see, there's still a lot that is in development, but of course it's all a hobby for the people actually modding this. So, you know, it's not gonna take like just a few days. A lot of work went into this, as you can also may have seen, or as you also may have seen. Lots of new icons and stuff. So a lot of work. Unit cards as well, of course, that I haven't even mentioned yet. Lots of stuff have been changed. A lot of love and work went into this. So huge props to the people that did this. And so far, nearly everything actually works. Yeah. So I think I went over the most important things. Links, of course, should be, or hopefully will be, in the description. Check it out for yourself. And yeah, there will be more detailed videos on certain decks and stuff, since you asked for them. Or some of you asked, I should say. And yeah, like I said, at some point there will be more videos, but I also have some more replicas of the grand finals coming up, some vanilla games as well, some very nice 2 versus 2s, which with lots of shit talk, including Firestarter. So that is something that you will hopefully enjoy. And yeah, that's it for me for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are interested in this mod, because I certainly am. And I'll hopefully see you next time.